Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the DC fan site that I have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. I am resuming going back to JLA. I had started it. I have a playlist. I was about 20 some issues in, and then I stopped and I decided, you know what? I'm going back. So where we left off was actually for the DC 1 million crossover event. This is from 1998. DC 1 million was DC's where would it be the time that it hit the 1 millionth issue? So it would have been in the year 85 to 71. That's a million months from when the first DC comic came out. So that was sort of the preface for it. This is written by Grant Morrison and drawn by Val Semeiks. And so here we have the future people, the future Justice League. And so we start out with, I almost said Azrael. Zauriel, I believe he is an angel that is on Earth, and he is with the JLA, and I love this. Grant Morrison's giving us a little bit of exposition, and he just says something terrible has happened, and Plastic Man is talking. Plastic Man is, I don't know, he's kind of a weird character. He's just weird. Anyway, so Zariel was not at the emergency. He's supposed to be on the uh, watch on watch duty, monitor duty, I guess is how what you would say. And so he says there's some kind of emergency transmission from John. I have to let it through. I'll take the responsibility. So he's going through. Plastic Man is still talking, and he says, I should have been at my post. I have a bad feeling about. And then he sees this, and some kind of event that we don't know at this moment has happened. There's over a million dead people, and you can see John saying, all dead, over a million people. This is our last message. John Jones out. And so Plastic Man's like, holy God, you turned your back for a second. So the title of our story is Riders on the Storm. Grant Morrison writer, Val Semeiks penciler. Prentis Rollins is the inker. So, all right. Oh, by the way, sorry, gotta go back here. It says prologue on the third day. So now we're gonna go back to the first day. So, my bad. So what we have here is we have a Justice League from the future, the 853rd century. And so Superman's explained they appeared without warning. I felt I had to call everyone in on this. In a moment, you're going to be meeting our visitors. We're dealing with creatures of unimaginable power who claim to be our descendants. And Flash here says, okay, I guess most of us have done some time traveling. I've never been beyond the 64th century, but the future Flash out there is John Fox, and I guess I can vouch for him. And Steel says, to tell you the truth, I'm more concerned about creating a foolproof security system for the Watchtower. And Huntress says, good point. This place is a magnet for opportunists, thieves, and low-life characters. Plastic Man says that. And Huntress says, you mean like you? And she just says, I just can't believe we don't all wipe ourselves out. The 853rd century. So she's obviously, it is a lot for a normal person to take. And Zariel says, "How do we know these aren't imposters like the Martians you fought? What are the chances of an identical JLA arising hundreds of centuries from now?" As I mentioned, I have a playlist. Feel free to check that out. I have covered the very beginning of Grant Morrison's JLA run. And Green Lantern, and this is Kyle Rayner at that time. Oh, by the way, Flash is Wally West during this time. And so Green Lantern, Kyle Rayner says, "Come on, Zariel, innocent until proven guilty. I say we run them through every scan we've got, from telepathy to rubber glove treatments, and then we just listen to what they have to say. I don't know about you guys, but I want to hear what it's going to be like in the future." And Big Barda says, "This kind of tinkering has Metron stink about it. If you people only knew how delicately time's fluid structures are arranged. What did they claim to be called?" And so we finally are gonna meet them. Justice Legion A, and it says here, "Welcome to the Watchtower." So let's see here. We have Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Flash, Aquaman, who's the most dumbest. It's just I'm not a big Aquaman guy. I think this is I don't know who this is. One of these two is Hourman. I'm gonna assume this is Hourman. So we just need to see who this person is. So, all right. And so Zariel says, "Those of you with enhanced senses may be able to see that we're currently running several security protocols. Bear with us." And Martian Manhunter says, "They also seem to lack the telepathic blocks common to human in this era. They have nothing to hide. The artificial intelligence Hourman," so yes, this would be Hourman up here, "is harder to read. There is something I recognize there, an immensely powerful energy source." And Green Lantern says, "Yeah, I met that guy before one time. I think he's on the level." And then they're like, "What are those costumes made out of?" And so one final question for the Flash of your team. So that would be him. "Our database tells us you're from the 27th century, Mr. Fox." And he says, "That's where I was born. After I last met your Flash, I wound up exploring the time stream. I ended up in the 85 to 65. I've been a member of the Justice League Legion A, for 5 years. Anything else?" And Kyle Rayner says, "Scans check out. Sorry about that, but we've had some serious security problems up here. Come through and meet the ape men." And so the future Flash says, I've been here before, so I guess I should do the talking until our telepathic translators adjust to compensate for the ride through the Whirlogog. I'm sorry about that. I have no idea what that is. Grant Morrison uses some weird stuff. Then it's his show. And so Hourman says, "I am Hourman, a Tyler Chemorobotics Diamond Generation Intelligent Machine Colony." And so you can see some kind of cool little gizmo here. The Whirlogog is a time-spanning engine bequeathed to me by my teacher Metron of the New Gods. It grants me mastery of time and space. It brought us safely here through the deep time. Nice vertical panels. And Big Barda says, "Metron, didn't I say?" And so, his cold fingerprints are all over this universe. And then Plastic Man says something stupid here. And, all right. So, Plastic Man must have said something stupid. And, he's like, "Did your mother ever threaten to disembowel you?" So he was asking about Orion. And she says Orion comes and goes as he pleases. And Steel says, "We may need him, Barda. If the New Gods are involved in this, Orion's firepower could be vital." And Hourman says, "This was my idea, not Metron's. I chose to come here to ask for your help in honoring the greatest hero of all time." And then he asks Starman to speak, so that must have been Starman then here. So we've got everybody. And so Starman says, "Where we come from, the entire solar system has been rebuilt and colonized. We members of the Justice Legion each patrol and defend a different planet." So sort of like the Green Lanterns. And he says, "This is all true. I'm living in Mercury." Yeah, that'd be impossible. But hey, it's comic books. Starman here has a citadel in the orbit of what was once Uranus. And so Starman continues, "Our entire culture organizes itself around the processing of information. A gigantic network of star computers links the entire galaxy, allowing us to trade new ideas with distant systems." Oh, sounds very peaceful. And we all know, just based on how humans are, and other intelligent beings, there is no doubt would be the same. This idea of, hey, we're all working together. That's all. Whatever. Anyway, Starman continues, "As part of my duties, I help maintain our system's second son, Solaris. It is a super intelligent stellar computer powered by proton fusion processors." Grant Morrison, don't ever change. He writes so weirdly. And it's kind of cool. "Once long ago, Solaris was one of the greatest foes of the Superman dynasty, but the 505th century Superman died, reversing his programming. He now serves as a beacon of system-wide community and freedom. He is probably our era's greatest technological achievement." So here is kind of looking at this Solaris, which brings us to why we're here. In AD 7001, the Prime Superman returned from adventures on the rim of time and space and took up residence in his solar fortress of solitude, our sun. So Superman is still alive. Oopsie. Oh, no, that is. And he's like, "Am I understanding? See? Am I understanding this?" says Superman. And so Martian Manhunter says, "So you come from a future which somehow mirrors our own time. Is that right? But not all of us have counterparts in your time." And Flash says, "Nobody knows where you went, John, but we do have counterparts for nearly everybody who's ever joined us. For the fastest man alive, you sure take a long time to get to the point, John." And so this Superman says, "The Prime Superman is coming back after 100 centuries in the core of the sun. Kal-El of Krypton is returning to Earth. That is why we're here." And Superman says, "What? I'm alive in 85 to 71 in the sun?" So in 1998, they sure loved their computer generated stuff. I always found it very artificial. But that's where comic books were moving. So, you know, I'm a fan of old 60s, 70s, 80s technology. So anyway, so we're now with Oracle, who at this time was Barbara Gordon, Batgirl. So Nightwing and Barbara Gordon are discussing the new Titans who seem to have disappeared, and Nightwing thinks that perhaps they went to test themselves, and so he lands here to see to stop a villain here. And during this time, I believe these two were in a relationship as well, but don't quote me on that. Then we're in Opal City. In DC, there's a lot of made up cities. And we see the original Starman. He's on the phone, I think, with the original Flash. And there's his original costume. And he's looking at watching the TV. And he feels that he sees a new Starman there. And he says here, "The dream we had, that stupid idea when we were young, that we could make things better, it's all come true, Jay. So he's full of hope here, but as we saw in the beginning, that hope is probably going to get squashed here. Again, here's some of the 1990s computer generated work, which I don't think translates very well to, you see this, but then they're still using both. I don't know. I just don't see why you can't just draw it and color it and just keep it all in one thing. But this was the 90s, particularly the late 90s, where this was the sort of stuff. Photoshop was still, people were still kind of getting the hang of it. So Superman is still struggling with the idea, and then he's like celebrating to honor my own future self. And so Flash says, "Your name is honored on countless worlds, Superman." And there's going to be a ton of people, representatives from all the planets. And the Prime Superman's oldest heroic comrades represent his glorious past. And so Steel says, "I don't want to be the voice of doom, but this team has a vivid track record for attracting big trouble. What if something goes wrong?" And Flash says, "Even if there was a crisis, in the few moments you'd be time displaced, the greatest heroes of the futures are right here to protect the Earth and bring you home if need me. Hourman sat up a lot of nights making this foolproof." Oh, we know that this is comic books and it's not going to work that way. That's awesome. And so Aquaman is like, "You want us to like do what?" And perform tricks and challenges. And Flash says yes. Wonder Woman actually likes the idea about using the powers in Celebration once. Um, Green Lantern Kyle Rayner agrees, and Flash says, "Well, if he goes, I go." And John Jones says that he'll remain there as coordinator. He says he already knows enough about his future, and of course, Plastic Man is Plastic Man. He says, and we need at least one grown up to look after the newbies, huh? All right, and Superman finally goes in and says, "Then we're all agreed. The future awaits." And now Batman, and so we have the second day. So the Huntress is talking about, how do we trust these people, and um they're from the future, and yada yada yada. And then she's like, why am I here? Why not Nightwing?" And he says, "You're here to replace Green Arrow." And she's like, "You don't like my methods," and all that kind of stuff. And Batman's like, you know, "You're here because I think, you're a good person." Anyway, so she goes, "I can't believe you of all people are prepared to trust this insane story about Superman and the sun." And he says something that is very un-Batman like. "We can't automatically assume everyone's an enemy." And Huntress is more like Batman saying, "But they usually are, Batman," as he goes into this elevator shaft here. Batman normally assumes everyone's an enemy, so he goes through and meets the Batman of that era, and he says, "Don't tell me Gotham still needs a Batman in the 853rd." And he says here, the other Batman, "From what little I know, Gotham was a paradise before it disappeared from historical records. Where I live is a little more intense. Your teammates have already decided to go. What about you?" And Batman says, "I'm tempted, but my concern is with the present. I don't need to see how this movie turns out." And he says, "Why did you choose a bat?" He says, "You'll find out." And then he attacks Batman. And here he says, "You have to go." And this is a martial arts move developed by telepathic octopus species inhabited in the Infoctions of Durla. Oh my god, can we get more outrageous? So he attacks Batman, knocks him down, and then he uses this device and grabs his spirit here. And it says here, "Psychoelectricity field integrity stable." And he says, "Spirit in a bottle." So, all right. So I'm kind of going to move along with some of these other areas here because it's a little bit of filler here. So the current heroes kind of team up with the counterparts, those that have him, and so um, they talk a little bit and all that, but this is gonna be the rendezvous point in Mount Rushmore in South Dakota, um, which is actually kind of cool. I've been there several times. I used to live in South Dakota, and so um, we're just sort of, like I said, we're just sort of gonna move it along here. And so here's Superman and Superman dealing with stuff. I think this is the Belle Reve prison. And so now we're gonna get to the other part here, which is here in northern Mongolia here. And here's we have an ex-KGB dealing with Soviet Army surplus. So he is a Cherenikov. And so we have the Titans here, not the Teen Titans. So this is the former Speedy. I think he's called Arsenal. And this was Aquaman's sidekick. Is it Tempest now? I don't know. And so here's all the red rockets, and he says bidding starts at 20 million per suit. And so all these people are making an offer, and this guy says 3 billion. I'll take all of them. And they're like, who the heck? And it's Vandal Savage. Real quick, just a side note, Vandal Savage is the current police commissioner during in the 2025 issue of the new Batman that Bat Fraction is currently writing, which I think is pretty cool. So, Vandal Savage is immortal supervillain. So the Titans see that and they're like, "Oh no!" So Vandal Savage is has been around for a long time here, and even Tempest is like, "Great." But he says, "I'm normally with you to the end, but this is JLA stuff." Um, yeah. So we take him down and prove that we are too. It'll look great on the business cards, Roy. Along with have a chip on the shoulder will travel. And so he's asking about where's Jesse Quick, which is right there. This is kind of the Titans were kind of a B Justice League. Basically, having Supergirl was in there too, so they have a Flash. They have they have everyone, all the former sidekicks here. And so this guy here, um, someone to celebrate. These are the last four bottles in existence. We thought you might like to guess the vintage. I understand you're something of an expert. And he says it's Chateau Lafite Rothschild 1847. I recognize the sound of it being poured. As one grows older, as one's tastes become refined, I am very, very old man as the things go. I remember a world without the wheel. I have seen empires bloom and wither and die, brief as flowers. And periodically, I have chosen to rule the earth. And so, all of a sudden, there's this explosion. This time, I decided to wait until the competition was big enough and arrogant enough to make it worth humiliating. So, here goes the Titans, and they're gonna make their move. The high pitched sound. There's a flash in the vicinity. Don't do anything to alert it. I anticipated this. And so Vandal puts the wine down and grabs something here. This little doohickey. An unusual aircraft was sighted by my people. A 20-year-old aeroplane. Our friends in tights on the prowl as usual. This pen is an ultra high frequency sound. It operates way above the range of our hearing, so you'll be quite safe, gentlemen. On someone traveling at high velocity, however, the effect is devastating. So, and you can see it takes her down. And Vandal Savage says tranquilizer. She'll super metabolize it out of her system, so we don't need a potent dose, gentlemen. And Arrow's like, hang on, we're gonna help you. So you see that they take her down, and then here's Supergirl here, and so He grabs this arrow and then tosses it at Supergirl here. So, and this Supergirl is not. Where'd her other leg go? Huh, I just realized that they didn't draw. He didn't draw the other leg. Am I missing it? No, he did not. I just noticed that. There is no leg. Huh, okay. So during this time, this Supergirl is not Superman's cousin, Kara Zor. Is it Kara Zor-El? Anyway, so it's somebody else here. And so Tempest goes to say, or to her, um, and he starts to steam the snow. And Vandal Savage says, "So you're the master of water. Like all specialists, your dependence on one weapon makes you vulnerable. I'll demonstrate." And so he goes to grab something here. Water is an excellent conductor of electricity. And so he uses the axe to break this or rip this cord out, which of course then electrocutes Tempest. And then he grabs poor Arsenal here. "I planned and fought and won battles you have only read about in your history books, boy. You're no tactician. There's too much need in you. Too much to prove to everyone. It's like a craving that's your weakness. And so that's your undoing." And so the Colonel says, "And the wine, Dr. Savage?" "The wine is dreadful, Pyotr. Nevertheless, I feel obligated to toast the brief lives of these foolish, doomed young men and women, my 4 horsemen of the apocalypse." So they're putting them in these in the armors here. And so now everybody is going toward Mount Rushmore. And so Justice League gathers here. They're ready to go, and they're like, "Batman didn't make it." And they're like, and Aquaman's like, "No surprise." And so off they go, and then uh, kind of a funny thing here. Aquaman says, "Is this a real future or another one of those possible futures?" And so here they go. Again, some computer generated stuff, and suddenly the heroes are like looking, and there's Batman coming up. And so suddenly here, the visitor has arrived, intact toy wonder, right on schedule, full speed ahead to the arena. So this looks almost like a bat airplane. So we've got a wonky little thing here. And so there, they've arrived in 85 to 75. The challenge is about to begin. And so Martian Manhunters, now you'll bring them back. Hourman, bring them back. And so Hourman's like, "Back? Wait, search files." And then he does some stuff. And suddenly here, he looks like the Martian Manhunter. And you can see there, let's see here, that something's going to attack. And then he does some kind of binary thing. And then, "This is Oracle. Is there anybody there?" And Oracle, "I'm here, Zoriel." And she says, "Some kind of virus from the future. All machines, people infected, to be considered hostile within 24 hours of the first symptoms." And so you can see even the JLA, or the future JLA, is also impacted here. And she says, "Attack his, Steel, there is virus. Attack his armor. We'll find a way to beat it, Oracle." And so, "I'm taking the Watchtower online. Oracle, have courage. We'll find a way," says Zoriel. And Steel says, "Okay, emergency meeting. We're on a global crisis alert, and there's one particularly important question nobody even asked. What happens to our people in the future?" And so we now see the future, and we see Vandal Savage again here. So Vandal Savage is still in there. And Justice Legionnaire are trapped in prehistory. Their primitive counterparts are here at the mercy of a system we now control. And very shortly, your ultimate weapon, the Night Fragment, will be unearthed from beneath the Martian sea, just in time to celebrate the return of Superman. You know, I mocked this particular wine once when I was a much younger man. Now it seems the sweetest vintage. What is wine? And then he's like, my point exactly. And so we see this fire thing, so we can assume this is Solaris. This is my intention. I will make him watch his oldest friends die here in a world beyond their comprehension. I will tear down the sun and take his place in the sky. The end of the Superman dynasty forever. So it looks like after turning into a hero, he is now a villain here. So good to have you back and thinking big, Solaris. The JLA are lambs to the slaughter. Let the games begin. To be continued. So we see Vandal Savage and Solaris are teaming up. And so this is a 4-issue limited series, and we will do all 4 issues before we resume JLA. And then there is a JLA 1 million that is part of the crossover event that we will also cover. So, all right, DC 1 million number 1 from 1998, written by Grant Morrison, penciled by Val Semeiks, I think is the pronunciation. Anyway, like and subscribe, and I do thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.